Greetings and welcome to my talk on growing teaminess. Teaminess is not a dictionary word, but still, you know the feeling. I'm Taval Panchal, and I'm the founder of Evolve Agility. We help leaders create empowering work environments. And I'm here because I want to share how organizations can enable self-managing teams. Before we dive into the self-managing team canvas, let's understand some foundational basics. Here, I want to talk about the notion of boundaries. In systems, boundaries are not perimeters, but they are functional components of that system. For us as humans, our ear serves the function of letting in sound waves so we can hear. If I close my eyes, I cannot see. The way we interact in our organizations, the things that we do, the way we act in our organizations, in our team settings, we may act differently than how we might act with trusted friends and colleagues. Lastly, how we communicate. These things matter not only to your well-being inside the team, but it also matters to the well-being of others who interact with you. We connect with our environment by the way we function, the way we behave, the way we communicate. And these are our responses to our context. Similarly, our teams, they do certain things, they have some behaviors. They also communicate through mechanisms that your organization has. I want to first dive a little bit into the different boundaries that exist within our organization and the hierarchy of influence these boundaries exert. First, there is a personal boundary. I may tolerate some kind of behaviors and other kind of behaviors are not okay. They're not cool by me, which leads me to have a very strong influence on the people who work with me on my team. I may not have global influence over the whole of the organization, but the way I choose to act, the way I choose to behave, the way I choose to communicate tends to have an impact on people who are near me as we are working within a team. The team itself has its own set of behaviors, the way it acts, and it tends to exert a very strong influence that is local. I'd like you to consider that a team is a living organism, which is separate from the individuals that make it. Individuals may be contributors to the overall behavior of the team, but the relationship that the individuals have with each other dictates the emergent behavior of this particular team. And lastly, there is the organizational influence, which tends to be very strong at a global level. In other words, your organizational policies, your culture tend to have a widespread impact on the overall tenor of how people experience working in that organization, how teams experience delivering value to their customers. If I were to tap on the shoulder of one individual, say, for example, in this particular team, I tap onto the shoulder of person A, and I ask them, what does your ideal day look like? They might say something to the effect of, I am a software engineer, this is my identity, and what I'd like to do is to focus on my job, finish my tasks, all the requirements are available to me, there are no meetings, no distractions, and at the end of the day at 5 p.m., I feel that I've done a good job. Now, if I were to now have the same question with another member in the team, person B, they might say, you know, it is really good for me when I have code that actually works and compiles, and I can finish my testing. And as a result of that, I feel that I've accomplished something at the end of the day. Now, inside a team, different people have different preferences of what their ideal day looks like, and how these two individuals choose to find a happy medium matters. Because if the conversation or the behavior of the two individuals is such that both of them are brokering a lose-lose solution, then the net result from the team is going to be much lower. On the other hand, if both of them are able to discuss and agree on some set of norms that help them to truly collaborate, then the overall outcome from their interaction is going to be far greater than what each individual could have achieved on their own. You see, teams are built on trust, and it's important to recognize this because in teams, we build confidence in our ability to be effective inside the team when we know, when we trust that others are not going to take advantage of us. You see, no one likes to be the sucker. The notion of I dissolves because you have to make adjustments in order to cooperate with other members of your team and coordinate with them in a manner that helps you to develop psychological safety. What that implies is different members of the team do not feel fear when they are expressing their opinion. Now, whether that opinion is a valid opinion or not is a different matter, but how the team feels about expressing their opinion, how the team members feel about interacting with each other can be very well expressed, or the structure of how you can allow for that psychological safety to occur can be expressed through a team working agreement. And this is something that many agile teams do. But I believe it is not sufficient to just have team working agreements. We also need to know who is going to do what. In other words, when a group of people are coming together to form a team, one of the key needs of individuals is, what should I expect from other members of my team? What role are you going to perform? How are you going to contribute so we can build something better? Now, in stable teams, what happens is over time, because individuals have built trust with each other, they start sharing responsibilities. It also grows the confidence of people inside the team to step out of their comfort zone and try something different. And as a result, they grow cross-functional skills. Now, in teams, there's also the expectations that we have, which are explicit. And these expectations could be based on the choice of the agile approach that you're using. For example, if you're using Scrum, you might explicitly identify someone as the product owner, the Scrum master, and the product developer. In addition to that, your organization may have some explicit expectations. You might be a community lead in your larger organization. And then there are those implicit expectations that are unsaid. For example, when the build breaks, we all know we should be fixing the build, but we also know that person X is going to step up and they're going to fix the build. So let's not call it out explicitly, but we can all act by turning our heads, trying to catch their eye and help them notice that the build is broken, so go fix it. Now, there are explicit and implicit expectations from members within the team, but then there is also that porous in between. We might have certain tasks that are not as favorable, or we don't enjoy doing them. For example, organizing your team wiki. And in a dysfunctional team, you'll find that they will ignore these necessary tasks that need to be done. And as a consequence, the overall outcome from the team is going to be much poorer. It's important to know what are our explicit, implicit, and the in-between responsibilities that we need to capture. And capturing those and making it known helps a team to recognize where their contribution is needed. When we talk about a cross-functional team, we are talking about a team that has the necessary skills to succeed. It does not mean that every single individual will be able to do every single task that the team is expected to do. But this growth of a group of individuals into becoming a cross-functional team occurs when there is clarity on, will I be trusted to do my job? Will others not take advantage of me? What is the work that we need to do, and who does what? Creating cross-functional teams is quite a challenge, and it is important and a responsibility of the organization to cultivate a habitat where teams can grow. One of the key challenges that I find in organizations is that just because you've labeled a group of people as a team does not mean that they have become a team. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy to cultivate the environment where teams can grow, and then support the team throughout its growth process. This is something that a gardener will understand intuitively, but some managers, unfortunately, never do. It's important that we set a very clear purpose for the team. This purpose is something that the team can achieve, and we expect the team to achieve only that purpose. If I now start expecting that a tomato plant will also grow me lemons, then it's actually going to be a very difficult situation, not only for you, but also for the team that you are leading. You see, teams, they struggle without a clarity of purpose, and this purpose needs to be long-term. This purpose needs to be defined by the senior management. The senior management's role is very clear in the literature of forming teams and supporting teams. You need to provide very clear direction and engage in a direct dialogue with your team so they can connect with the larger purpose that you are trying to ask this team to achieve. What that implies at a personal level is the individuals within the team can see how their contribution helps them to improve, helps them to grow, and also helps them to achieve the larger purpose that the organization has set for them. We are trying to look for a win-win solution where not only the individuals buy into the purpose, but they are enthusiastic and supportive of this larger purpose. And this can only happen if there is long-term stability in this purpose. What we ask is that the senior management participate in this conversation with the team. And in this conversation with the team, where you help the team understand their core purpose, it is also very necessary to establish what the team can do, but chooses not to do. This is important because one of the key dynamics that I've seen in organizations is when an individual joins a company, and if they happen to touch application A, they are now on the hook to fix every issue that is reported for application A. Now that we are forming a cross-functional team which is oriented towards serving customer needs, if application A is not part of that value chain, we choose not to work on that application. And this is now a management responsibility to prioritize what we will ask our teams to focus on and where they can choose not to spend their energy. There are, of course, constraints within the organization. This is about the context in which the organization works. For example, in today's day and context, remote work has become a norm. So let's be explicit about it. What are our rules? What are our expectations of how we are going to work? What constraints do we have? So as a team, we can problem solve together. A key technique that I found to be very helpful is to help a team build its own identity. This identity is different from the functional contribution that members bring into the team. Let's look at a thought experiment. If you were to tap on the shoulder of your team member, what would they say? Are they a tester? Are they an analyst? Or are they a team member trying to solve a particular customer problem, which happens to require analysis, testing, design, and other skills that help you to build that product for your customer? The responsibility of the management is not to cut the goose that is laying golden eggs. Team exchanges real work products with the customers for the organization. And this is a boundary trade-off which is happening under the condition that the management is able to provide stability of team membership and stability of team purpose. In exchange for this stability, for team purpose and team membership and a supportive environment, the team delivers a valuable product increment. Now, this does not mean that your team's purpose or its mission can never change. What it means is, to the best of our understanding today, here's where we are headed in the very long term. Think in terms of months or years. And if something changes in our environment, then we will regroup to redefine our purpose with our senior management. Lastly, it's the responsibility of the organization to maintain a habitat where you can truly create healthy teams. And teams, they don't stay in the same level throughout. Either the teams will grow and get better, and as a result, the organization will get better outcomes, or the team will get picked off and it will disintegrate under the influence of the larger organizational culture. Agency. All living things exhibit some kind of agency, and dead things, they don't. The conversation that I've been having with you so far is about teams being a separate entity, a living organism in and of itself. And oftentimes it is puzzling to understand why some teams take accountability for the work they do and exhibit this sense of autonomy, whereas others don't. You see, what happens is inside a team, if the individuals have ownership over their process, ownership over the tasks that they need to do, what they need to do, how they need to do, who they need to cooperate with, coordinate with in order to get the work done, then they are going to look for ways to improving it. For example, and consider this as a thought experiment, would you be going out and mowing your neighbor's lawn? My answer is probably no, because you don't own it. Same goes for your team. If the team does not have autonomy to own its own processes, it is not going to look to improve it. And if it doesn't look to improve it, then it will not have accountability over the outcomes. What I find is increasing teams' awareness about how they are doing is very, very important. And traditionally, how managers have approached this situation is by providing measures and metrics top down. Instead, consider this. Ask the team, given this is our purpose, what measures, what leading indicators will help you know that you are headed in the right direction, and what are some lagging indicators that will help you realize that you've actually achieved the goal or the outcome that you were looking for. In this particular picture over here, this team improvised on a technique where at the end of the daily Scrum, they would take a confidence vote. They would ask everyone on a scale of 1 through 10, how confident you are that we are going to achieve our sprint goal. As you can see, at the start of the sprint planning, their confidence vote was quite high. And as the days progress, their confidence is going down. This kind of awareness of what is going on in our environment implies that the team has the ownership of the measures that they use, that they value, in order to judge whether they are doing better or worse. Let's digress for a second. I want to talk about representative heuristic. This is the tendency for people to misunderstand the particular for the general. Take this as an example. There's a stakeholder who engages their friends and family network, goes on to the team member directly and makes a personal request for them to fulfill. If this team member takes on this request, then the stakeholder is going to mistake this one interaction to be a general characteristic of the larger team. And then they're going to go to the next team member and make their next request. You can see how this dynamic can erode away the autonomy of the team. So my ask is to turn the representative heuristic into your favor. And the way we do that is by building strength in numbers. As a team, you need to have this conversation about how you are going to navigate through the circumstances that you often find within your organization. If you encounter some positive organizational elements, how are you going to amplify those behaviors so others can learn how to interact with your team? On the other hand, if there are dysfunctional elements within the organization who tend to hurt the team's ability to deliver on their outcomes, what will you do together as a team, a single response to those kinds of stimulus? These type of actions that a team takes in the way it engages with the larger organizational elements can be described as amplifiers and dampeners. You may not have the ability to go and correct that behavior, but as a team, you have the agency to own your own response to these stimuluses. And this is what I mean by the boundary of a team maintaining its identity, maintaining its existence as a team. Because if the boundary starts to chip away, then teams will only be a label in your organization, but not necessarily a functional, autonomous, self-managing unit. Ta-da! In this particular talk, I've talked about the different elements which I have put together in this canvas called the Team Self-Managing Canvas. I discovered these areas through a lot of experimentation and helping organizations to form stable, long-term self-managing teams. We've talked about team name as a way to repurpose the identity of a group of individuals. We've talked about the purpose and the importance of senior management to be involved in articulating why we've asked for this team to come together. And in that, also be very clear about what the team is not going to do. There may be constraints within your organizations. This could be a shared definition of done, some physical constraints that you have to be in this particular building in order to do this kind of work. Whatever those constraints are within your organization, be very explicit about those constraints that apply to your team and the ones that don't. Internally, how you manage your own relationships with others can be expressed through your team working agreements. Knowing who is going to play what role, what should we expect from them, is an important aspect of team growth. Recognize that this is not set in stone. As you go about working in a team, you might discover that the roles are changing and morphing. For example, you may now identify the role of a component mentor, someone who is focused on growing skills for other members on the team to work on a particularly challenging component of your product. Lastly, on the externally facing side, the team needs to know how they're going to collectively respond to the stimulus that the rest of the organization is providing. Are they going to amplify behaviors that help them to meet their purpose? And how are they going to dampen behaviors or interactions that are going to hurt the team in the long run? The most important part, and this is where the senior management needs to take notice, is that the goal or performance goals for the team must come from the team itself. What we don't want to do is to provide them a purpose and then provide them measures that we will use to judge them. That will lead to dysfunctional dynamic. Because if management sets targets and measures top down, the behavior you're going to notice is that a group of very smart individuals is going to figure out how to game the measure, but it may or may not deliver on the results that you're looking for. All systems create, maintain, and degrade their own boundaries. Teams are either growing or they are degrading. There is no middle ground where a team remains exactly as it was before. I hope you enjoyed this talk. You can download the Team Self-Managing Canvas by going to this URL. Thank you for participating in this session. And I hope you found something useful and valuable that you can take away to your workplaces. I hope you have a great conference, that you connect with your friends and others that you've been looking to connect with. And no matter what you do, don't chang out. See ya.